improvements on a house, and knowing something about one of the houses in town that was historic, the Lindheimer house, for example, it has been restored to original way. And when I came here, it had a porch on it, and it didn't look anything like it does now. Now, our house was had been the owner of this house had been John George Pfeiffer. Yes, in German it was always getting Johann Georg Pfeiffer. He and his wife, I have the information I wrote down, if I can remember now where I really got the information, I'm not sure, but he was 45 years old and his wife 38, I think, when they came over. Should have the name on that. But anyway, they had 5 children, and when he died, the part that we had, he had originally owned all of lot 210 and 211, going back from Mill Street to Bridge Street. So ours is a part, the one we had took over in 1942, was part of that original 2 lots. It is working after all. Depends on what people do with it. So our lot was part of this original, what Mr. Pfeiffer had originally had. But the house was what he had lived in. The drawing that I speak about is of the whole town as if it was taken from a person standing on the hill where the Sophienberg Museum is. If we could get that on. Anyway, I set about trying to make that house be ready for us to move into. It had been lived in. People were living in it at the time. But upon my looking through it, I was using whatever I might have learned up until that time about renovating, redoing houses that needed a little redoing. This house had been built before plumbing, before electricity, no bathroom in the house. That's the way it was built to begin with.
Fachwerk?
Built of logs and adobe bricks, and so it was old enough to be interesting. Okay. At that time, we were not having a lot of did not have a lot of buildings that old that were being restored to look like they did back when they were built. So I was trying to make it ready for me to keep house in with my family. And I had been doing home demonstration work and home economics. That was my major at the university. Well, I went in and took some graph paper, measured all the windows and the doors, and that I had a plan here because I had one course at the university of house planning. So it was always my dream to build a house myself. That is, not the actual building, but to plan it, have it built. And this was not the time, but this was the time when I had a house that was bought for us, and I was going to make the best I could of it for us to be comfortably situated. Well, it had electricity put in it, but only the simplest. As I recall, there were only a drop light in each room. Now, perhaps there was some way to get around having lamps or what. I don't know how that was done, but so I'm not speaking for sure as to what previous tenants did. But
and again, this is 1940.
Two. I might say it could have been at the end of 41, so I'm not sure about the New Year's, whether we were already had it or not. But Ernest was born in on February the 18th. So we were at work with that house at that time, and my husband completely rewired the house, putting in as many light plugs and switches as he could so that we could live in the way that you might expect to live as far as electricity went. And then there were no cabinets, no closets, and in general we had 6 rooms. That if you put 3 rooms across the front and 3 rooms behind there, you could draw a line through all the openings from front to back and from side to side through the openings. I'm meaning the doors and the windows. There were 5 outside doors, and there were 10 windows. Now, as you came in the front door, you had little, what's called side lights at each side. Nothing that opens, but that you had narrow glass windows to let light in there, and and you had glass at the top of the door. Behind that, you could look straight through to the outside, from the front room to the back room behind that one. Now, in that middle room, it was 11 by 14. There was a narrow stairway that went up into the attic. The attic was not built out, but you were walking on boards that were the ceiling boards. These boards were quite wide, cypress, much as we could tell, and very thick. So they were strong boards, and they were up against logs.